Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. Today we will continue the unit energy and respiration. Today we are going to talk about ATP. What does ATP mean? It is a universal energy currency in living organisms, and all living organisms use ATP as an energy. And what does ATP mean? So it's written it's adenosine triphosphate, or we can say adenosine triphosphate. Let us first look to its structure. Firstly, here we can see the backbone of the ATP. It's a sugar. It's a pentose sugar called ribose. We know this. Sugar can be found in the RNA. And here we can see the adenine nitrogenous base, and this adenine and ribose they make a adenosine. And here the main universal energy currency is the energy is stored actually between these bonds. And here we can see three phosphate groups. That's why it's called triphosphate. And if we add the water to the ATP, we can get that energy. We can break down the last phosphate group and take a 30.5 kilojoules and convert into ADP. ADP means D means 2, then it means there is found 2 phosphates. And if you again add the water by hydrolysis reaction, hydrolysis means adding water. It will also give 30.5 kilojoule and make adenosine monophosphate. Here we have only one phosphate. If we continue the reaction further, we can get 14.2 kilojoules and you will leave adenosine. As we mentioned before, adenosine it's a ribose plus adenine. ATP it's phenomenal because it can be reversed. As you see, ATP, when we convert ATP into ATP, again by getting energy from the food or from the sunlight, we can convert it into ATP. It's a reversible reaction. Why ATP is suitable as a universal energy currency? The first one is a one-step reaction provide an immediate source of energy, and it's easily hydrolyzed as we saw in previous pictures, and constant supply of ATP is possible because as we mentioned before, it can be easily recycled. It's related to small molecules, that's why it can move around the cell easily, and it is water soluble, and it can take place in the metabolic reactions. Okay, we talked about what's the ATP and how we can hydrolyze and get energy. Yes, by breaking down the bonds, but how, from where, or how we synthesize the ATP. Synthesis of ATP from ADP involves the addition of phosphate molecules. That's why it's called phosphorylation reaction. And there is three ways of phosphorylation. The first one is photophosphorylation. Photo means light, then it's a product, or it's a converting of ADP into ATP by using light. As you see in this picture, here we can see the chemiosmotic theory. Accumulation of hydrogen in one part of the cell membrane will leave it, or will enter it, here leave thylakoid lumen into the stroma by using ATP synthase, and when they are moving through this ATP synthase, it will spin around and may convert ADP into ATP. The next one is oxidative phosphorylation. It's a process in which ATP is formed as a result of transfer of electrons from NADH, FADH to oxygen by a series of electron carriers. Here we can see the electron carriers, and we can see also NADH. As you see, electrons, when they are transporting through the electron transport chain, protons, hydrogen protons, move it into the intermembranous space, and when they accumulated, they wanted to come back. And again, they are using the ATP synthase or ATP synthetase, and when they are moving through this channel, they are making ATP. The next one is substrate level phosphorylation. It's a metabolic reaction that result in the formation of ATP by the direct transfer of phosphoryl group to the ADP and forming ATP. It takes place generally in glycolysis and in Krebs cycle. Now, chemiosmotic, it's a movement of the hydrogen from high concentration to the low. Yes, we are using this one. Let us look the chemiosmotic, how actually it's taking place.
Uses ADP and inorganic phosphate, also known as PI, to synthesize ATP. This process involves an enzyme complex called ATP synthase. Gradients and the potential energy they create are key aspects of the biological world. A good example of the use of a gradient occurs in the mitochondria when ATP is synthesized. ATP is synthesized by ATP synthase, a large complex of membrane-bound protein. Here we see ATP synthase, along with other membrane-bound proteins. Notice the large difference in the number of hydrogen ions on the two sides of the membrane. This difference is a hydrogen ion, or proton, concentration gradient. The energy associated with this gradient is used to synthesize ATP from ADP and PI. This occurs at the ATP synthase complex. One hydrogen ion enters the ATP synthase complex from the intermembrane space, and a second hydrogen ion leaves it on the matrix space. The upper part of the ATP synthase complex rotates when a new hydrogen ion enters. Once 3 protons have entered the matrix space, there is enough energy in the ATP synthase complex to synthesize 1 ATP. In this way, the energy in the hydrogen ion gradient is used to make ATP.
Yes, as you see, I have explained the chemiosmotic theory in briefly, but in next lessons you will learn it in the topics of electron transport system. Okay, why we need this ATP? The role of ATP in the living organism is the first anabolic processes. Anabolism, it's a production of the complex molecules from the simpler ones. If we give example, it can be polysaccharides can be made from monosaccharides. Peptides can be made from the amino acids, and polypeptides or DNA, RNA can be made from the nucleotides. After we are using living organisms used in the movement, movement of muscle, movement of cilia, movement of flagella, also within the body in the circulation of blood. Active transport, it's a movement of molecules and ions against concentration gradient, like in our impulse transmission, sodium potassium pump. In sodium potassium pump, active transport is used. Here an ATP is used to remove 3 sodium out and get 2 potassium in it. Secretion, it is ATP is needed to form the vesicles necessary for the secretion of cell products and activation of chemicals. As we mentioned before, reactions need input of energy to start this reaction, activation energy, and ATP is providing them. That's all for today. Your homework will be to read the topic 12.2 and a worksheet 12.2. Thank you for your attention. Stay healthy, stay at home.